Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. Specifically, this time of year. I mean, I know when we did this last year, we spoke about the same kinds of things. But I mean, I'm drawn to the same conversation because I think um, every year it's it's that invitation to after you've reflected on what didn't happen in the last year and what it is you'd like to see happening this year. I mean, I've ended up just thinking about this year as trusting that this year will be the best year yet. So obviously that's it's a statement of faith, despite what's happening around us in the environment, etc. So I, I I can say with a certain amount of certainty that both of us and Julia, who's joining us here, started the year with resolutions. Would I be sort of incorrect to think that?
I'm caught between living in the here and the now with something that I'm busy with, and then this whole idea that resolutions place so much pressure on you. So I have thoughts, and I've said that they're flexible and they can change at any time as well. I'm not going to so I'm going with a more flexible approach this year. So I haven't made formal resolutions. In other words,
Okay, so
in a
so
in a yeah in a that yeah I haven't made any formal ones. I've been thinking about things and just realized, by March then things have changed. So
well,
it's like that pressure. You start There's so much pressure to start off this year, and then it like fizzles out. I want to be a good finisher,
yes, and
not
and
just
and
a
we
good start.
and I mean it's a interesting that you're talking about this until March. There's this 3 month window to actually build in the things that we need to do, adopt new behaviors, new habits, whatever they might be, in order for us then to do things either differently or the thing that we always wanted to achieve is to say this is the year. But I mean, I know I'm putting you on the spot. Something I don't know if you just want to, and I'll tell you. Even for me, I mean, there is if I think about what is it about this year that I would like to achieve, and I'd say this year I want to be a better grandpa. I want to spend a lot more time with my grandchildren this year as one of the things that I'd like to see happen. And I know as I say it is a little broad, and that is what I want to address actually, in our talk today. So that is what I would like to achieve this year. You know, my eldest grandchild is starting school this year, and I'd really love to be supportive, be there at her events as something that I'm thinking about. I haven't been to any of her events that she had going to, um, I guess, creche and then preschool and so forth. Um, so, therefore, um, this is the year, Shanaz, that I'm saying this is the year where even though you're hedging your bets a little bit, and I see Julia, you you haven't planned anything, nothing formal. We all start the year, and it's this is what I'm saying. We all start the year. If there's any hope within us to do and achieve things, and sometimes if we've done any reflection on the past year, is what has worked, what didn't work, what were the things that were on our list to achieve and we just didn't get to them. So I'm actually going as far as guaranteeing that we have those things. And I like what you say, Shanaz. Interesting that you say you'll be flexible, and you're giving it a window of up until March. And there's a psychology behind the flexibility. Uh, what do you say? Is that too is that statement too bold?
I think no. I think that there is some thought around that. Um I used to be very much that my goals are all sorted out, and sort of this time, but I've just gone with I'd like to finish strong off strongly. So because I am a brilliant starter. Like I'm like out of the, when they're running that race, I'm like
Yes.
the first out of the block. But then I'm like the steam. I ran out of steam. I have to tell you that I admit that, because I have so many ideas and plans. And I just need to be. I'm become very much aware of that I'm a good starter. And I struggle to finish off what I have started off. So I'm trying to take a pause more, and trying to think more about what it is that I need to start, that I'm going to commit to finishing.
That's so cool. I tell you what, I'm going to do a little preamble as usual. Um, and then maybe as a practical example, let's see if on that list that you would like to start but yet finish, maybe we can get into it. Or maybe you can apply what I'm just briefly going to share. Is that a deal?
Wonderful, wonderful, absolutely.
Okay, cool. All right, so today's little talk is really inspired by an author by the name of Caroline L. Arnold. She wrote a book entitled Small Move, Big Change. And she focuses on using micro resolutions to transform your life permanently. So hopefully there's a message in there for both of us, and for all of us. That's you included, Julia. So I'm just gonna. I'm not really gonna share the content as much because in what she covers is quite broad, and I'm gonna cherry pick a few things, and I'm not gonna go in any particular order. That's why I'm saying it's rather the talk is rather inspired by this book, and she launches off by saying how not to rush into making big changes. First and foremost, that which you are referring to, Shanaz, is to out of the starting blocks very quickly, and it's these big elephants that we need to conquer. She's saying, you want to make permanent change? And I mean, it's not new, but I just like the way it was literally structured. And so, you know, basically, we start the new year, and we talk about the things that we might want to do differently, the things that we would like to achieve. And I'm talking about, I'll use practical examples just to make a point. But we're not going to be addressing wishes or wannabe resolutions, the things that we ought to, that we should, that we need to. But rather, I think what sits at the very foundation of this idea is practically implementable, easily implementable, but for permanent change. Coming back to making the small move, it's a little bit like the Pareto principle, making the 20% effort for the 80% outcome. But I like small move, big change. And so, what do we typically say, broadly speaking, at the beginning of the year? I want to be more patient this year because I'm thinking about particular incidences last year when I wasn't, or I want to be more organized because either I got feedback or I just got fed up with myself. or outcomes were such that they were not successful. So I thought, starting this year, broadly speaking, and these are not my own wishes or wannabe resolutions. I'm just saying this as an example. But the one I want to deal with is when we say, I want to be more disciplined this year. And this has a minefield of all kinds of cocktail mixed into this. So, anyway, so obviously, I want to be more disciplined. Is okay. Are you at least seriously saying this now at the beginning of the year? So let's base it on the premise that you are literally serious. This is what you want to do, because the how the year ended is not what how you want 2023 to end for yourself, and therefore, and so I want to be more disciplined is so broad and it's so vague. And what is it that we're missing here? And I'm just going to say, you need to be able to take this broad statement and be clear about what it is, why it is, how it is, and when it is. So, what, why, how, and when. And for instance, let me break this down. I mean, I'm really dealing with something a little bit. I'll come to the more practical, easier things to do. We're going to take I want to be more disciplined and see if we can isolate what is it that I actually mean with I want to be more disciplined. So if you unpack this, asking this question is basically, and what you might uncover as you peel the one layer away is the person that says I want to be more disciplined could, for example, mean that they don't want to be sidetracked anymore by distractions and people pleasing. For instance, that's the what. Now the question is, why is this important for this year? Well, an answer could be, I want to keep the commitments I make to myself. Okay, so it's still very broad, but there's dawning understanding. There's a why there. How powerful is that why? Well, we're not sure yet. We need to unpack it. But let's get into the how. How, broadly speaking, will this person, therefore, and in a way they're thinking about it, will they keep commitments to themselves? And the response is learning to say no without anxiety and guilt. Oh, that's interesting, right? So the iteration is this. If I was sitting with this person now and taking them through the thinking exercise, is let's unpack this why maybe a little bit better. So after asking different questions, answers could be and basically just taking the thread from what this person said, that they want to keep the commitments they make to themselves in this year. So it's still flexible. We don't know what these commitments are, but now we start breaking this down into something a little bit more specific. And so the question is, well, name one commitment that they want to make to themselves. So several things come to light. Is, well, they would like to get into shape, they'd like to lose weight, and they'd like to fit into a certain size outfit, and they want to have more energy to enjoy their life. So all right, so I'm not going to go through all of that, but further unpacking, etc., distills this thought is the why. Well, now we've come to the practical why. Is, well, I'd like to take a brisk walk every week for about 30 minutes without being out of breath. Okay. We can actually work with this. And when we tap into, okay, so how are you going to achieve this? Well, when we go into learning to say no, how does no feature as far as this is concerned? Well, it is when I have scheduled the 30 minutes in my diary, I will decline invitations for meetings and other activities in this time without anxiety and without feelings of guilt. Wow. Okay. Now let's see. So now we jump into this space where we say, okay, great. We're starting to concretize the resolution into the beginnings of commitment, because when you do the why and you get the how, and as you begin to see how this can be achieved, you begin to make commitments. So what is a micro resolution then, and what does that mean? Well, in other words, for me, is what's the exact first step that you need to take. And if you want to use the timeline, it's something that you can do either immediately or up to a maximum of 2 weeks, right? So we use a 2 week window. What is the exact first step that I need to take in order for me to work my way into taking a brisk walk every week for 30 minutes without being out of breath? And you might be answering, okay, Jacques, that's great. That's very, very specific. What does that feed into? Well, having more energy to enjoy my life, from in terms of what this person, this fictitious person, is thinking about. So, what is the exact first step? And this is what it looks like: an activity. It's an action step, and as simple as this is diarize the date I want to walk. Okay, all right. So, when do you want to walk? I want to walk on Wednesday afternoons at 5 p.m. Okay, so when will you diarize that date? I can diarize this date in the next half an hour. Very specific. That's when the when kicks in. So now that step is now taken. It's in the diary. Whether it's a physical diary or whether it's an electronic one, doesn't matter. It's done. So, what is the next thing that needs to happen? And we're still talking about practical things. Is okay, identify the route I would like to take. Okay, when's that? Well, I want to do this after I have diarized the date. And how do I do that? Well, it's easy. You look at Google Maps and 30 minutes around my home, or check if there's a park I can either go to, or there's a particular uh, strolling lane that has been put up by the municipality, something like that. Anyway, that is done. So all of this says it's practical and it can be achieved. Okay, can check quickly. It's not as if you got to spend the money. All it is the inclination, is at the time. Where do I do this? I do this easily. So, and if you think in terms of steps, right? So then the exact next step would be to identify comfortable clothing and shoes to wear. Go into the cupboard, have a look. When can I do that? Also today. That's a third thing I can do today. All right, I go in there and say, yes, I've got these. Depending on what the weather is like, and what season we're in, whatever that may be, I've identified my outfit. Oh, and I got the comfortable walking shoes. Got all of those. I'm all set. I'm ready for Wednesday, basically. So what then needs to happen? The next step is Wednesday afternoon at 4:45. Guess what the step is? I change into comfortable clothes and shoes, and at 5 o'clock, I then walk in the direction and the route that I've chosen for 15 minutes. And when I get to 15 minutes, and a brisk walk, because remember, here I want to walk without being out of breath, so I need to test this. And all I do is I walk for 15 and I walk the distance back in the remainder of the time. And the question around the how, the saying no, it is throughout all of this. Once you started, if this is a conversation we had today, which is Monday, that's gone in the diary. Come Wednesday, we are certainly confident that this is going to happen now, right? Now it is, and all it is was pretty easy. It was just one Wednesday for 30 minutes, okay? So the first Wednesday, great. So in order to stay disciplined, and this is what this person has meant by this, is to continue to say no to all distractions and or temptations to honor this commitment every Wednesday. And so, yeah, so now you've made a small move, and every Wednesday at that time you are walking. So now that is when you were pretty vague in terms of what you were saying. You can see where we come from, right? I want to be more disciplined, and we've isolated, we distilled it into, well, I want to take a brisk walk every week for 30 minutes without being out of breath. That's where we distilled it. But you could have said at the very outset, well, you know what? I've got this app. It measures my steps, my cell phone or my watch or whatever it is, and I want to walk a certain amount of steps every day, throughout the day. And depending on what you do for a living, etc., you could set it at 2,500 steps or 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever the case might be. But the strategy would be as simple as that, is that at least twice a week you have to go to a shopping mall or something. And then you combine it, and what you do is that you park as far away from the entrance as possible, and then you just walk. And in so doing, you're accomplishing two things at the same time. And it's a consciousness that you are that you are applying, or that you are employing, in order for you to carry out this micro resolution. And so at the end of the day, you check your steps. Have I done my steps? Have I done my 2,500 steps? No, I haven't finished with my 2,500. What else could I be doing? And therefore, and therefore, and therefore, and then you'll be doing different things. But the point of this is, and I'll end up with this, is even maybe a much simpler example to explain this is to say, I would like to eat less. And then you think, well, why do I want to eat less? Well, it's because I eat too fast and therefore I eat too much. So, okay. The positive framing of the activity could simply then result into, I want to savor my food by identifying texture and taste. So rather than thinking eat slower, it is about being present. And Shanaz, you mentioned being present is about being present in the moment and savoring what it is you're doing, and therefore have portion control at the same time. I'm going to end it over there, and let's see if Shanaz has got anything to say. I mean, it's supposed to be very practical. A small move, big change, and I was wondering, Shanaz, can this be applied to some of the things that you're thinking about in your case?
Hi, yes, I definitely can. I think that maybe what I've done previously is probably make the things that I want to do quite, large, and not break it down into simple, practical steps like you've done. And I know that I'm not necessarily a detailed person, I'm a big picture person. So, yeah. So I think that maybe it is about those micro resolutions that she mentions, and maybe that's what I need to focus on. I think that was very practical. Yeah, I think that I could try. I can see the little practical steps and kind of use that, and definitely focus on small things, small changes. Yeah.
It's a thing, and to ask yourself, well, what can I do today or tomorrow up until the next 2 weeks? And it is, and the question starts includes what can I do, not what should I do, right? Is what can I do? What is already in your hands to do? You only do the things that you can do, that's available to you. Because we sometimes talk ourselves out of doing these things because it's a budget problem, it's an opportunity problem. I must first get to that thing before I can do that thing. And so it becomes this uh, big, hairy, audacious goal, but it just becomes an elephant that does not want to move, because the things that you want to put in place in order for you to get going. So, for example, if we could use something that you are willing to share, something that you would like to achieve for this year, and even if you state it as a big picture, let's see if we can take down the one thing that you can kind of harness
Okay,
and
so
apply.
yeah. So one of the things that I'd like to do is I need to get my training, some of the training that I do. There's two things, sets of training that I need to get accredited through the South African Social Work Council.
Okay. So if you think about, if you boil it down to exact first steps kind of a thought,
Yeah.
is in order for you to do that, what is the, when I say exact first step, I literally mean the exact first step. And it's things that are so practical that you don't think about it and you don't plan for it. But those are the things that takes 2 minutes that keeps progress back, or we don't even start
Yeah.
it.
that that I actually go onto the website and download the form. See that I have the updated form.
so so that's interesting. So if that is the first step, is then to, the commitment is tied in with the win.
Yeah.
So you got to decide and say, okay, when am I going to download the form?
Yeah, I can do that on Friday. Or yeah, I mean I can do it tomorrow. Probably.
And and all it is, you focus on
Yeah.
doing that task, and once
Yeah.
you've done it, you decide what the next step is going to be, and you just do that one.
Okay, so it's incremental steps.
It's incremental. You don't
Hmm.
worry about the big outcome. You
Hmm.
commit yourself to
Oh,
that start. I want to download,
yeah.
because what happens is that you suddenly start to build momentum towards the bigger one, but you're not focusing on the bigger one. You're focusing on these micro tasks, resolutions that you're setting and achieving those, and they all practical now, because once you've done that, you now know what is required. Then you need to sit back and say, okay, so what's the next step that I now need to take, as practical as it is? And it doesn't matter if it's a 2 minute job or not. You state that, you schedule it, and you do what you can in the time that you set for yourself.
Great. That's actually very helpful. I can see I didn't think of it in incremental steps because I realized that I become overwhelmed because I make it and then it's like it grows bigger in my head the longer I take to do it. It grows bigger. Yeah.
Yes, and so, then sometimes because of that we become disappointed, and then we throw the baby out with the bathwater. But what I'm saying is, if you really want to do this, then you owe it to yourself. You sit back, and what is the first step that I need to take? As silly as it might seem, just think about that first step, program it, schedule it, do it, and then think about the next thing that you want to do towards achieving these goals that you've set for yourself.
Thanks. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Ah, it is my pleasure. So, yes, I can't believe it. I thought, I'm gonna like be done talking in 5 minutes. This is something I can achieve. I can see that. But I think, for everybody listening to this, it's supposed to be practical. And I'm going to encourage you, think about the practical first things that you can do, right? That you can, not what you hope to do, what you can do, what's in your hands, and do that. And then, you pause, you celebrate the fact that, wow, I have done that. What's the next thing that I want to do? And just continue doing that. And you'll see 2023 will be an amazing year for all of you. And I'm speaking to myself you know, of course, same thing. And making sure that if my wishes need to come true, I need to think about the practical things that I can take, the practical steps that I can take towards achieving the goal. Because at the end of the day, it is not whether or not you've achieved the goal in this year, it is how much progress you've made in this year towards achieving that goal. So, happy thinking about this. I look forward to what Shanaz is going to bring for us next week. Shanaz, that's not a shock, right?
No, that's fine. I'll actually follow on with, yeah, I've got an idea. So,
Ah,
yeah,
great, great. If we
thanks.
if we do that, it just builds and it's fantastic.
Yeah,
So thank you, Shanaz. I see Julia probably
yeah.
has left us, but yeah, have a
Thanks.
fantastic week
Thank you. You too.
until we
Thanks,
chat
Jacques.
again.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.